So when was the concept of this film born, and when did you come on board?
The concept was formed around 6 years ago,
Okay.
and the Apollo connected with our other producers at Whitehorse, and that's when Cassidy Hartman and Jeannie Festa, Nigel Sinclair, and his team started the journey. I joined around 3 years ago,
Okay.
3.5 years ago, when I ran into Roger and he told me he was working on this project, and he knew I was a Harlem native and former music person, and we've been looking for something to collaborate on, and it was a great team to join.
Gene, the narrative arc of this film sort of reminds one of the National Museum of African American History and Culture. So it starts with the very base and then rises and rises and rises. And this film starts with the very beginning, so the minstrel, when you move beyond Ta-Nehisi Coast's words and takes us to Obama. Can you talk a bit about your approach and how the pieces all came together with all the footage and all the story?
Well, that's a long story. But so when Roger first approached me about the project, first he wasn't thinking about a historical doc.
Mm.
I say, wow, then I have to go through all the archive, I mean, all the footage that we shot in the previous year with like Amateur Night. And then the minute I saw Ta-Nehisi Coast Between the Water and Me was going to be the season, I knew exactly that's going to be the framing because it was just so powerful about race and politics. Then, so what my co-editor, John Fisher, I have him go through all the archival footage chronologically because I think we have to have a foundation of chronological story. And then, so it's thematic transition into, it's the transition is always the tricky part, how we jump from past to present, like the Amateur Night to Ta-Nehisi Coates rehearsal to the final performance. But I always knew the framing was going to be the performance.
What was the sort of historical pressure, knowing it's not a historical doc, but the historical pressure and the importance of this place? How'd that play into your approach?
Well, I think that the Apollo is like our ground zero for us to then explore and connect it to broader themes in our journey as African Americans. And so I think that the pressure was always to find that seamless transition from the to the meta of what is the music giving voice to, what is the comedy, coded with messages about that then speak to what's happening historically in this interesting timeline of 85 years of African American history, which is a very challenging 85 years emotionally for our journey.
So, Robert, thinking about sort of this history, in the song, how did Don't Turn Back Now, how did that get written, and how was Lettucey chosen?
The song "Don't Turn Back Now." We're just trying to take the aspect of what we're talking about of black people being oppressed and still making amazing art. That's kind of how we do it. And I called on my friend. Well, the song happened because I was playing a cue. The way I do a lot of my film scores is I like to have the director in the room, the music editors in the room, and I will create the soundtrack in front of their eyes.
Okay.
Like literally make everything up right there, so then they can say, yeah, no, kind of, and I get immediate yes or nos. Versus if I'm doing it at home or in another state, one yes or no could take a week or a few days. So I like having everybody in the room. So I was literally coming up with something for a cue, and Roger was like, "What's that? What's that?" I was like, "Oh, I'm making it up." He was like, "That's the ending song," and he pointed it out. He was like, "That's the ending song." I was like, "Okay, cool." And then I have a really good friend of mine, Muhammad Ayers. He's a great songwriter. He's been working with me for years. So I sent him the song, and me and Muhammad, I think we all discussed a little bit who we should get to sing the song. Because you want it to be a powerful song that's something that people could really resonate with, and you want it to be somebody that maybe, certain people know, you know what I mean, blah, 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 blah. And we ended up on Lettucey. And if you heard the song, you know why I got Lettucey. I've known her for years. She's a powerhouse singer, an amazing singer. She knows how to tell stories while she's singing. as well. And I know that she's a fan of the Apollo and watched the Apollo and has been at the Apollo, has sang at the Apollo, all those things. So the connections matter, yeah.
Jean, how do you go about editing? Are you in partnership with the director? Are you kicking the director out? How do you work the process?
Well, I was really lucky that Roger trusted me. I actually worked with Roger before. And when he approached me, he said, Jean, I will not do this film with anyone else. I was really flattered. I think because I've edited Malcolm X Make a Plane. Edited Scottsboro Boys. So I have my Africanness, if you can call that. He trusted me. I also worked on other music films. So he had full trust in me. And the editing process, just really finding, what we have. We actually, the first day, we laid out the timeline on the wall, because from 1934 to
Long wall.
85, it was a very long, it was
Several
actually
layers.
many multi-layers. And, so many artists' names, like who do we choose to be in the film? And also, so the archive really also inform us sometimes. Like, we have great James Brown, we have Billie Holiday singing Strange Fruit. So it's really sometimes, the spirit will come to us and say, this is what you need.
What was most important to you?
Well, I'd like to build upon this
Yes, go ahead.
timeline because we felt a lot of pressure, and I think we still feel a lot of pressure with this film because there's a lot of stories we couldn't tell, but what's amazing in the edit room was the multiple timelines. So there was the chronological Apollo history, then there was Harlem history, then there was African American history, then there was like seminal songs. And so you start to see this interesting kind of commentary of the number of lynchings, Billie Holiday having this opportunity to write and sing Strange Fruit, and how certain timelines add up. 1968 and the tumultuousness of that year, with the tremendous loss as a country that we experienced, and James Brown, I'm Black and I'm Proud, and what's happening in Harlem. And so this wall certain moments started really talking to everyone who was there in terms of the process and like what we felt we needed to highlight.
Lisa Cortés, Robert Glasper, Jean Tsien, the Academy. Thank you.